Hello, welcome to From God's Heart to Mine. Thanks for joining me as we aim to draw nearer to God every day. James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3 says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." Trials are an everyday part of life. And this doesn't change for the Christian. I think sometimes people get the expectation that if they become a Christian and do their best to follow God, then everything in life will go smoothly and well for them. And they'll never experience any trials, challenges, hardships. And sometimes, if that's the way people think, they can end up blaming God for the problems that they do face. Yet, God never promised an easy or unchallenging life. In fact, God tells Christians quite the opposite, that life will be hard, it will be difficult, and we will go through trials. And yet, we should expect Christians to handle these trials better than those who live without the hope and love of Jesus. One key that James gives us in the text to overcome our trials is knowledge. James tells us to consider it all joy when we fall into various trials. And why should we do that? Well, he continues in James 1 verse 3 with the word knowing. We can count it all joy when we fall into trials because of something that we know. When we think about our knowledge as Christians, your trust in God grows in proportion to your knowledge of God. A small view of God will lead to a small trust in God. You might remember the story of the disciples on the sea when they were in the boat and the storms were raging and they were afraid, they were scared for their lives. Jesus was calmly sleeping, but they were terrified and they woke Jesus up, crying out, "Save us, Master, save us. We're dying, we're perishing." And Jesus said, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And then he calmed the wind and the waves. You see, their view of Jesus, their smaller view of Jesus, is what caused them to have little faith or weak faith. After Jesus calmed the storm, the text tells us that the disciples began asking themselves, "Who can this man be that even the wind and the seas obey him?" You see, they didn't fully understand. They didn't know everything they needed to about Jesus. And their limited knowledge and belief in Jesus is what caused them to fail to trust him. As Christians, we endure trials differently than those in the world because of what we know about God, because of what we know about the trials, because of what we know about ourselves and our hope. Overcoming trials spiritually is about having spiritual perspective and bringing that knowledge into how we react and how we handle the problems. Based on what some people say and share, they only know their problems. All they can see in life is the trial, is the hardship, the difficulty. Christians are those who can see beyond the trial, who can look up with heaven's perspective because of what God has shared with us, what God has revealed to us. We know so much more. And what we know about God tells us about his power and his love and his care in handling our trials. What we know about trials is that they are temporary. They don't last forever. What we know about ourselves is that we are capable of enduring trials just as Jesus did to reach the joy that is before us. We know that we have hope. We know that we have a peace which surpasses all understanding. So why don't we live like it? If we want to overcome the trials of life, bring the knowledge and perspective that God gives into your everyday reactions to what goes on. Thanks for listening today to From God's Heart to Mine. My name is Caleb Griffith. Feel free to reach out to me on any platform, and I'd love to include you in my prayers today. Open your heart today to pursue God's heart and try to show God's heart to others.